In today's video, we're going to be taking a massive look into major Hurricane Ian, now expected to landfall as a major hurricane as well. This is turning into a worst case scenario. We're going to talk about all that within this video. Now, let's just take a look at this current radar imagery. You see there's a couple things going on. I'm just going to really just glance at this because we have a little bit of activity still going on here for the Northeast and the Great Lakes. We have Hurricane Ian down here beginning for Florida, and we're going to basically just take a look at this real quick, and then we'll dive into the hurricane. We can see that there is a low somewhere up here causing this precipitation to really move around the Great Lakes. That's Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, I see some, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and probably going to start to impact New England a little bit more, especially Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, it appears. Now, let's go ahead and take a look down here at Hurricane Ian. Because we can see it is basically all the way down here, but already look at southern Florida. Getting some of these outer bands. We already had a tornado warning as well, and this is just the beginning of the storm. We obviously know this, and we know that this is going to get a lot worse, but there was a tornado warning here midway down the Florida Keys. That looks to have broken up quite a bit. But definitely some heavier bands already this far away from the storm making their way on shore, and it's only going to get worse, unfortunately. Now, what we're going to do is move on, and we're just going to take a look at the upcoming pattern briefly. We're going to talk a lot about hurricanes. So instead of doing my usual diving down and really just taking a look at every single little feature throughout the model run, we're really going to just primarily focus on the bigger things here. So we see Hurricane Ian really just slamming into the Tampa Bay, or just south of the Tampa Bay seems to be the hot spot here for a landfall. We see this trough just about here, which probably is going to encourage the storm to overall curve out the sea just like this. If it's over land, we could see more of an eastern track like this. It would still probably take that route as well later on down the road. Now we see it stalls out, it just hangs out, and then it moves up the coast a little bit and brings a lot of rainfall. And then we get into a quieter pattern. There is some storminess that takes place out west, but much quieter as we approach October 7th here. Now, that was quick, wasn't it? Now, let's take a look at the GFS model here. We're taking a look at a zoomed-in look to see where this model takes the storm. We see it just slams just south of Tampa Bay there on this model. And brings the heaviest precipitation still over the Tampa Bay area there. We'll take a look at the total precipitation in a minute, but it stalls out and then moves up the coast out of here. Now, landfall says about a 970 millibar low pressure center. It is as of now, it's a very low pressure system. We have a Category 3 status as we speak, so it is currently major Hurricane Ian. And we're anticipating an upgrade to a Category 4 at some point here. Now, as far as total precipitation is concerned, here we are taking a look at things. If you're anywhere in the whites, we're taking a look at practically no precipitation. Your grays will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, or better yet, 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. Those blues down there in Florida, we'll take a look actually at the state of Florida real quickly. Those blues are going to be about 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. And then those magenta colors in there are going to be 15 to 20 inches of rainfall. So we see for the Tampa Bay, just straight down the Tampa Bay, all the way up here into portions of northern central Florida there. We see a lot of this activity with those high amounts, 15 to 20 inches or more of precipitation. This model is predicting a maximum of 27.35 inches of rainfall there on the bottom right hand corner. You can see that, and that's probably somewhere there near Tampa Bay in that deepest pink area that we see there. Now quickly, we're getting a little off topic, but here's the snowfall. We are increasing with the total snowfall over the next 10 days. As you can see, there's a lot more purples and pinks over the Rockies. An exciting time where we're seeing the winter start to slowly transition in. Your grays will be a dusting, if anything. Your blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Your purples will be 6 to 10, and then your pinks will be 10 inches plus there for the Rocky Mountains. Very interesting. Now, your upcoming temperature pattern here. We see we're in a deeper cold pattern. This is going to last quite a while. This is all the way towards the weekend. That's Saturday, Sunday, Monday time frame. We see this continue on Wednesday the 5th here. Another cool down moves through. And look, Saturday, October 8th, we see another cool down move down in, and that lasts all the way through the 11th, maybe the 12th. We see another one move in, but overall, now we're seeing this model trend at the warmth and the positive PNA here, positive PNA, sticking around, and we're seeing over and over again troughs moving eastward here into the central and eastern United States over and over and over again throughout the next almost 3 weeks, I would say, is how long that was. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at the 5-day graphical tropic weather outlook because there is 2 disturbances technically out there, one being a major hurricane and then one just being a disturbance. And then we're going to take a look at everything to do with major hurricane Ian. Now here we are taking a look at the 5-day graphical tropic weather outlook. As you can see, we have Hurricane Ian there over Cuba right there. And then we have this disturbance here that has a 50, I don't know why it's red because it says here that it has a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours and then a 50% chance of development over the next 5 days. I'm guessing what's happening here is this does say in the written area that is the 2 a.m. update, but the actual visual that we're taking a look at here is the 8 a.m. update. So I'm willing to bet, and maybe even if we refresh this page, yeah, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we have a 70% chance of development over the next 48 hours and over the next 5 days. So a pretty high chance of development. I don't know why it was showing the old update there in that box, but it's updated now. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite imagery. And Hurricane Ian clearly has an eye there. You can see as a Category 3 storm. That's pretty much expected. What I can say is that this storm is still developing. I can tell by the characteristics, the buzz saw shape. We still have storms forming in the eye. And now we can see that it is just clearing the northern coast of Cuba there, where further development is going to be possible here in between the waters here in between Cuba and Florida. So unfortunately, this isn't even the strongest we're going to see this storm, and there is some more development that is possible with this storm. Now, what we're going to do is move on and take a look at that intensity guidance to see just how strong this storm might get. Here we are taking a look at it. As you can see, all expectations are that we're either going to stick around that very, very top end Category 3 storm, but I would say in all likelihood we do cross into that Category 4 status. And Category 5, in my opinion, still cannot be ruled out because this is the Gulf of Mexico. These waters are notorious for overperforming and just being ripe for potential with these storms. Even this time of year, it is still very ripe for development. There is shear, but sometimes the storm does win. So it wouldn't surprise me if this one is a little bit weaker than expected, a Category 3, which is still a devastating storm, and quite frankly, it's not going to make a huge difference, Category 3 or even 4. It's going to be within a certain amount of miles per hour, and the main thing we're taking a look at is storm surge is as the biggest impact, I would say, considering it's the Tampa Bay and just the really bad setup that the area has geographically, really, for this type of storm moving in. Category 3, 4, or 5, I think storm surge is going to be devastating regardless. But I do really strongly feel like this storm could overperform and easily be, we have a certain amount of error, right? So this is where the models are predicting the intensity to be, somewhere in between here. Obviously, there's a certain amount of error, obviously, where the models could be wrong, where it could be, weaker Category 3 or Category 2, but it could also be up in this Category 5 status equally. So we have to give it room for error in the above or below direction, if that makes sense. So that's why I still feel like Category 5 cannot be ruled out. But I think the highest probability is this kind of mid-tier Category 4 status at landfall, which is a extremely devastating storm. And I want everybody to take this extremely seriously because this is a pretty serious situation. It's about as serious as it gets, quite frankly. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the spaghetti model guidance, and then we'll get into some impacts. Now here's the spaghetti model guidance as of, actually we need to update this, I think, to the 12Z run. So let's try updating this. Now we don't have it, so this is just the 6Z run. But basically, a vast majority of these models show us still curving just like this. So we have this curvature straight into the Tampa Bay area. It's been interesting to watch this trend as it started as basically just the European model showing this and the UK model, which is usually right there with the European model. Usually they both agree with each other, the European model and the UCMET model. Oftentimes the UCMET model runs come out for the European model, so you can actually look at what the UCMET is calling for to kind of see what the European model is going to show. It's pretty interesting. But we see that this is expected to curve now into Florida, which is worst case scenario because there is quite a bit of shear in colder water up here. So if the storm was to continue to track over water for longer, it probably would start to deteriorate. But the storm is basically still going to be at its peak here within 48 hours here within this landfall, which is going to be just really, really devastating. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some of those impacts. Well, first off, we have to take a look at the cone forecast. I forgot. As you can see, now as of the 8 a.m. update, and I think as of the 2 a.m. update as well, or 5 a.m. or whenever it comes out, the National Hurricane Center is now calling for a major hurricane at landfall still, which is obviously a big time upgrade from what we were seeing in the forecast before, where we saw obviously it downgrading to a hurricane or a tropical storm. This has been my gut feeling for days. You can watch my videos from days ago with this one that I've had a bad feeling this entire time about this storm. And I've been basically calling for a major hurricane at impact since I began talking about this storm. I've thought this storm would be a bad one for sure. And that's just been my feeling the whole way through. My feelings have not really changed about this storm at all during the entire process. Outside of track has been a little bit iffy. We currently have 125 mile per hour winds, which is out of this world. I don't think we can see the pressure here, but last I heard the pressure is extremely low with this storm already. So that's the last I've heard. And yeah, just I feel like between Cuba here and the Tampa Bay, there's so much potential for development that it is a frightening thought for sure. And then obviously once it gets over land, it begins to deteriorate to a hurricane by 2 p.m. on Thursday, to a tropical storm by 2 a.m. on Friday, and then depression by 2 a.m. on Saturday. And it is going to bring a lot of rainfall to surrounding states as well in the southeast. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at some other impact. As far as total rainfall, here's what we're taking a look at. 1 to 2 inches of rainfall there in the lightest green. Your darker green will be 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. So you can see almost everybody in the southeast is going to be seeing 2 to 4 inches of rainfall from this. Then the yellows will be 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. A lot of folks seeing that as well. The oranges will be 6 to 10. Up and down the southeast coast, we see that happening. And then your reds there, pretty exclusive for Florida. We see 10 to 15 inches of rainfall, which is going to bring extreme flooding risk. And then the pinks there for the Tampa Bay area, mostly the St. Petersburg area. I actually had the privilege of being there very, very recently. Less than a month ago, I was staying in I think it was called Pinellas Park area. I think that's how you say it, but it was near St. Petersburg in that area. Beautiful area, and I'm just devastated that they're about to be devastated with this much rainfall, storm surge, and wind. After I just got to see the beauty and the natural beauty of that area. Actually, we visited parks. It's just such a beautiful region. It's just these storms are so devastating, and I think being at places and having seen the places that are getting impacted just makes it so much more personal. Or obviously living there would be the most personal, but it is really just different when you are familiar with the spot that's getting hit. So my thoughts really do go out to all of you, I have to say, as I visited the very beautiful Tampa Bay area, and I do love that area for sure. Now, let's go ahead and move on and take a look at the storm surge. Now, in the blues, we see 1 to 3 feet of storm surge there. Your yellow areas will be about up to 6 feet of storm surge. Your oranges will be 5 to 8 feet of storm surge, and then your reds there, that includes Tampa Bay and Charlotte Harbor down there, up and down that kind of west coast between Tampa and Bonita Beach there. We can see that these areas are going to receive up to 10 feet of storm surge. Wouldn't be surprised to see some areas surpass this, especially if we get a path that brings the southern and kind of eastern wall of the hurricane right to Tampa Bay. That would be worst case scenario. Or even Charlotte Harbor has that shape where if the wind can be pushing the water straight up into those bay areas that are, as you can see, kind of on a slant. If it pushes the water directly up into there, it is going to be kind of a worst case scenario for storm surge. So I just want to get that out there as well, that these geographical features are not doing any favors here with this storm. And I hope that makes sense, how that could lead towards even worse storm surge. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe for future updates. We do upload daily. Be sure to like the video if you did find it useful or interesting. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next video.